Hey everyone, today we're diving into the complex and sometimes chaotic world of the Eurozone. From wild inflation swings to huge economic differences between countries and heated debates over how to handle money, the future of the euro is on shaky ground. But why should you care? These economic hiccups in Europe can send ripples across the globe, affecting everything from your favorite imported cheese to your next vacation. In this episode, we're breaking down the current state of the Eurozone, highlighting the big economic divides, and diving into the fierce debates over fiscal policies. And of course, we'll look at the possible fixes being tossed around by some of the brightest minds in economics. By the end of this video, you'll have a clear picture of what's at stake and why the Eurozone matters to all of us. So stick around as we unravel the complexities of this economic powerhouse and explore what lies ahead for Europe and the world. The current state of the Eurozone. Alright, let's set the stage. The Eurozone is like a giant economic club made up of 19 EU countries all using the euro. But, as with any big group, things can get a bit messy. Right now, the Eurozone is juggling a bunch of economic problems that make balancing a budget feel like walking a tightrope. First off, let's talk about inflation. It's like the Goldilocks problem. Some countries have too much, some have too little, and finding the just right is proving tough. For instance, Germany, with its powerhouse economy, might handle a higher interest rate just fine. But for struggling countries like Greece or Italy, those same rates can be a total nightmare, slowing down their economic recovery even more. Then there's the fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic. Some countries, particularly in Northern Europe, bounced back relatively quickly thanks to strong economies and healthcare systems. Others, especially in the South, are still struggling. This uneven recovery is causing a lot of friction within the Eurozone. And let's not forget about public debt. Countries like Italy and Spain have seen their debt levels soar, which is a big worry for their economic future. It's like being buried under a mountain of student loans, tough to pay off without some serious help. This has reignited the debate over whether the wealthier countries should help out more, leading to calls for tighter economic integration. Adding fuel to the fire is the energy crisis driven by geopolitical tensions. With many Eurozone countries depending heavily on energy imports, especially from Russia, the spike in energy prices has hit hard. Imagine your electricity bill tripling overnight. That's the kind of shock these countries are dealing with. So what's next for the Eurozone? It's clear that a coordinated response is needed to tackle these issues head-on, whether it's through smarter monetary policies, better fiscal coordination, or significant structural changes. The future stability of the Eurozone hinges on addressing these challenges effectively. Economic disparities between member countries. Now let's zoom in on one of the biggest headaches for the Eurozone, the massive economic disparities between its member countries. It's like having a family where one sibling is a straight A student and another is struggling to pass. The differences are stark and problematic. Take Germany, for example. It's the overachiever with a strong industrial base, low unemployment, and a hefty trade surplus. On the flip side, you have Greece and Spain, where unemployment remains high, industrial output is lower, and trade deficits are a constant struggle. This economic divide creates tension and makes it hard to implement one-size-fits-all policies. In countries with weaker economies, high unemployment and lower wages lead to poverty and social unrest. These nations often rely more heavily on EU funds to keep afloat, creating a dependency that strains relationships within the Eurozone. The austerity measures imposed as a condition for financial aid only add to the discontent, sparking protests and political instability. Let's look at Greece as a case study. The financial crisis in 2009 hit Greece hard, leading to multiple bailouts from the EU and IMF. These bailouts came with strict austerity measures. Think higher taxes, lower public spending, and pension cuts. While intended to stabilize the economy, these measures also caused significant economic contraction and widespread hardship. Meanwhile, Germany continued to thrive, highlighting the stark contrast within the Eurozone. These disparities also complicate monetary policy. The European Central Bank, ECB, has to balance the needs of stronger economies like Germany and weaker ones like Greece. It's like trying to please everyone at a family dinner, nearly impossible. For example, an interest rate hike might help control inflation in Germany but could choke economic recovery in Greece. These economic divides also fuel political friction. Populist movements have gained ground in several countries, driven by dissatisfaction with economic conditions and perceived inequalities. These movements often call for drastic changes to Eurozone policies and in some cases even suggest exiting the euro. The debate over fiscal policies. Fiscal policy. It's a hot topic in the Eurozone, sparking debates that can get as heated as family arguments over politics at Thanksgiving. At the heart of the debate is how to balance fiscal discipline with the need for economic growth. On one side, you have the fiscal hawks like Germany and the Netherlands. These countries push for strict budget controls and low public debt, arguing that fiscal prudence is key to long-term stability. They believe high public debt is a slippery slope that can lead to financial crises and erode investor confidence. On the other side, countries like Italy and Spain advocate for more flexible fiscal policies. They argue that austerity measures can stifle growth, increase unemployment, and widen social inequalities. These countries push for increased public spending to stimulate their economies, particularly in areas like infrastructure, education, and social services. Central to this debate is the Eurozone's Stability and Growth Pact, which sets limits on budget deficits and public debt. Critics argue the pact is too rigid, especially during economic downturns, and hampers countries' ability to spend their way out of recessions. They suggest revising the rules to allow for more counter-cyclical spending, where governments can ramp up investment during tough times without facing penalties. The COVID-19 pandemic has only intensified this debate. The crisis forced governments across the Eurozone to open their wallets like never before, leading to unprecedented public spending to support their economies. While some see this as necessary to prevent collapse, others worry about the long-term debt implications. These differing views on fiscal policy reflect deeper ideological divides within the Eurozone. Wealthier countries with stronger economies lean towards fiscal discipline, while those with weaker economies push for more flexibility. Finding a middle ground is a constant challenge, but it's essential for the cohesion of the Eurozone. Possible outcomes include reforms to the Stability and Growth Pact, greater fiscal integration, or a shift towards more decentralized fiscal policies. Each path carries its own implications for the Eurozone's economic stability and political unity. In the end, the fiscal policy debate is a microcosm of the broader challenges facing the Eurozone. It highlights the need for a balanced approach that can address diverse economic realities while promoting overall growth and stability. Proposed economic strategies and reforms. So, what's the Eurozone doing to fix these problems? Let's break down some of the proposed strategies and reforms aimed at stabilizing this economic juggernaut. First up, there's talk of creating a more integrated fiscal policy framework. Think of it as pooling the allowance money among friends, a centralized Eurozone budget that can help member states during tough times. This would provide financial stability and reduce the need for emergency bailouts. It could be funded through collective taxes or contributions from each country, ensuring everyone has some skin in the game. Structural reforms are also on the table. These aim to boost growth in weaker economies by improving labor market flexibility, investing in education and training, and supporting innovation. The idea is to address the root causes of economic disparities, creating a more balanced and resilient Eurozone. Another big idea is to give countries more wiggle room within the Stability and Growth Pact. This means allowing more counter-cyclical spending, where governments can increase public investment during downturns without facing strict penalties. It's like having a rainy day fund you can dip into when times are tough, helping economies bounce back faster. The European Central Bank, ECB, is also looking at ways to play a more proactive role. Some suggest the ECB should support green investments and tackle climate change, aligning monetary policy with broader economic and social goals. This could make the Eurozone economy more sustainable and inclusive, benefiting everyone in the long run. Opinions on these strategies vary widely. Some economists and policymakers argue that greater fiscal integration is essential for long-term stability. They believe a centralized budget could prevent crises and promote more balanced growth. Others are wary of giving up too much national control and prefer reforms that boost local economies without centralizing power. For instance, proponents of structural reforms argue that boosting competitiveness in weaker economies is the best way to ensure long-term stability. They see investment in education, innovation, and infrastructure as key to reducing economic disparities and creating a more level playing field. Meanwhile, those advocating for more flexible fiscal policies highlight the need for governments to have the ability to respond to economic shocks. They argue that rigid rules can be counterproductive, preventing necessary spending during tough times. As these debates continue, the Eurozone will need to find a path that balances fiscal responsibility with economic growth, ensuring stability and prosperity for all its members. So there you have it, the Eurozone's challenges in a nutshell. It's a complex, layered system designed to manage the diverse economic realities of its member countries, from the wild swings in inflation to the deep economic divides and the fierce debates over fiscal policies. Each part of the system plays a crucial role in maintaining the region's stability and unity. Understanding the Eurozone's economic challenges gives us valuable insights into how interconnected our world is. It highlights the importance of cooperation, compromise, and smart policymaking in navigating these complex issues. Whether it's the interplay between monetary and fiscal policies, the need for structural reforms, or the push for greater integration, the Eurozone's experience offers lessons for economies everywhere. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for more captivating content. And let us know in the comments what other topics you'd like us to unravel next. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.